Hey there, have you ever read something and just felt it? Like the words weren't just telling you something, they were showing you, painting a picture right inside your mind? Well, that's what we're diving into today. We're talking about the power of words to come alive, to breathe right off the page. This right here, this really just sets the stage, doesn't it? It's a powerful reminder that words are never just words, they're tools. They can build things up, they can tear things down. And today, we're going to learn how to use those tools with real skill and, real intention.
So, how exactly do writers make their words dance and sing like that? Well, it's not magic, but it's close. They use a special set of tools called figurative language. Think of it as a writer's toolkit, and we're about to open it up and look at the 5 most essential tools inside.
Okay, here they are, the big 5, all laid out for us. First up, you've got the simile. This is where you compare two things using like or as, she's as brave as a lion. Simple, right? Then we have metaphors, which are a bit more direct. They don't say something is like something else, they say it is something else. Time is a thief. Boom. Powerful. Next is personification, where you give human traits to things that aren't human. The wind whispered through the trees. It's kind of poetic. Then there's hyperbole, which is just a fancy word for a big dramatic exaggeration. When you say, I could eat a horse. And last but not least, my favorite one to say, onomatopoeia. These are sound words like boom or splash. The word itself actually sounds like the thing it's describing. Pretty cool, huh? All right, theory is one thing, but let's put these tools to the test. This is where it gets fun. I'm going to throw a sentence at you, and you see if you can figure out which tool is being used. You ready? Let's do this. Okay, here's our first one. The clock marched forward without mercy. Focus on that verb, marched. What's that telling us? What kind of image does that create? Yes, it's personification. A clock can't literally march, right? That's a human action. By saying it marched, the writer makes time feel relentless, almost like an army. It's so much more powerful than just saying time passed quickly. Okay, next one. He was a rock in the storm. What do you think? Is it a direct comparison, or are we using clue words like or as? It is a metaphor, see? No like or as. We're just stating it as a fact. He was a rock. It immediately tells you everything you need to know about his strength and how dependable he is. That's the power of a good metaphor. Okay, keep that momentum going. Her smile was as bright as the sun. This one has a little giveaway in it. See if you can spot it. You got it. It's a simile. Those little words, as, are the dead giveaway. It's a classic comparison that instantly paints a picture of a smile that's just full of warmth and light. How about this? Boom! The thunder shook the windows. Just listen to that first word. What does it do? That's our fun one, onomatopoeia. The word itself is the sound. When you read boom, you almost hear it in your head. It pulls you right into the scene, making it feel so much more real. All right, last one for our quiz. I've told you a million times. Now, think about this. Has the person really said it a million times, or is something else going on here? Of course it is. It's hyperbole. This is a perfect example of exaggerating to make a point. It's not about being literal, it's about conveying a feeling, in this case, probably a lot of frustration. So now let's see how these tools work together, because great writers rarely use just one at a time. Take a look at this. We have Mia's heart being a drum line. That's a metaphor. The lights blinking like nervous eyes. That's a simile and personification. And the chairs nodding? More personification. It's all layered together. So think about it. What kind of feeling, what mood do all those details create? Nervous eyes, a silent room, nodding chairs. It all starts to feel tense, right? Anxious. The room itself feels alive and watchful, which mirrors exactly how Mia is feeling inside. It puts us right there with her. So we've seen what these tools are and how they work, but that brings us to the really big question, so what? Why does this even matter? I mean, beyond just writing a cool story, is there a deeper reason for using language with this much care? Well, the philosophy behind all this says, yes, absolutely. This ancient proverb just captures the whole idea so perfectly. The right word at the right time, it's not just effective, it's valuable, it's beautiful. It's like a piece of art, something precious that's been perfectly crafted. And this idea of using language to make people feel things, it's been around forever. Think about it. Historically, some of the most influential teachers, like Jesus, used stories and metaphors, parables, to get their point across. It wasn't about just listing facts. It was about helping people connect with a deep truth on an emotional level. And that leads us to this really fundamental idea that language itself was designed for so much more than just basic communication. It's also here for beauty, for exploring deep ideas, and for, actually moving people and stirring their hearts. So this all ties into a bigger guiding philosophy. The idea is that having a skill, like being a great writer, isn't enough. If that skill isn't connected to a moral compass, it can actually be harmful. The real goal isn't just to be clever, it's to use that cleverness to make good choices. So from this viewpoint, learning to master language isn't just an academic skill, it's a way to connect better with people and even find a deeper sense of peace. Which leaves us with this final thought to take with you. We've seen that words have real power. They can build worlds, they can sting, they can heal, they can make us feel. So the question we all have to ask ourselves is, knowing that, what are our words creating every single day? Thanks for joining me.